Hello everyone, my name is Irene and I'm in Group 3, Fractal Perceptions. Today the work I choose to introduce is Ryuhyo, Floating Ice by FUMIAKI. It is a woodblock print produced in 1917 and currently it is in the collection of Muscarelle Museum of Art. First, I want to introduce you about the natural phenomenon mentioned in the work, which is ice drift. The ice drift in Japan originates from the Amur River in Russia and then drifts through the Sea of Okhotsk to reach Hokkaido. This typically happens in mid-January to early February. Sometimes it can last to late April due to the different weather conditions. The coast around the Abashiri and the western coast of Shiroteko Peninsula receive the biggest amount of ice. In cold winter, ice drift can be witnessed as far as Kushiro along the Pacific coast and Wakane at the northern tip of Hokkaido. However, recently, due to global warming, the amount and thickness of the ice drift has decreased considerably since the late 1980s, and it happens increasingly that the ice does not quite reach the Japanese coast during some periods of the Ryuhyo season. This work, inspired by this geographical spectacle, celebrates the beauty of nature, just as other Japanese artists who took inspirations from the nature. The geographical location of Japan makes it convenient for the artists to take their inspirations from the sea and the mountains. For example, the most famous Great Wave off Kanagawa by Kazushika Hokusai. It was published sometime between 1829 and 1833 in the late Edo period, as the first print in Hokusai's series, 36 Views of the Mount Fuji. The image depicts an enormous wave threatening three boats off the coast of the town of Kanagawa while Mount Fuji rises in the background. Digging into the details of the wave, we will see that the general shape of the wave resembles the famous Fibonacci curve, which generates a proportion that can produce an aesthetically pleasing visual balance. Stepping further into the shapes of the wave, we can see that each individual portion of the wave also resembles the larger ones in a much smaller scale. The utilization of identical patterns in different scale echoes back with our Mandelbrot geometry, which set up the theoretical base of our exhibition. The picture as a whole has recorded the dynamics produced by the motion of the wave, setting up a contrast between the stillness of the Mount Fuji in the back. From this work, we can see that art breaking out of the limitations set by conventional thinking can actually dance with the contemporary science, just as the title of our exhibition has suggested. Next, let's shift our focus into the visual effect of the work I choose. We can see that in this work, the fragmented blue unfolded between the dark lines, fading away into the mild pink at the bottom. And it also expands further into the page, merging into those invisible boundaries somewhere below the colorful dots and the two dark lines. The clear-cut lines right up front, however, introduce two kind of ambiguities on this page. First, contrasting with the color gray, blue and pink that flattens the pictorial space gives us a sense of depth. Second, we can interpret the plane as either ice straddles or driftwood over the ice sheet, providing an illusion between the two-dimensional space and the three-dimensional space. Alternating perceptions between the immaterial and material, cold and warm, closeness and detachment are the possible mental fractals experienced by the beholders when viewing this work. This is the third work of our part of the exhibition. We put this in this position to work as a transition from our first two figurative works to the more abstract ones we have later in our exhibition. It contrasts with our previous work, Handshake from a Stranger, in terms of its composition, and provides a bridge to our fourth work, Concave Tree R3, which is an abstract work also dominated by color blue, as we can witness in this one. The author of this work, FUMIAKI, is one of those Japanese printmakers who surprised the art world with the new style of modern prints after 1945. He combined the tradition of Japanese woodblock printmaking with Western techniques and ventured into new design subjects. Some people claim that his prints look like a distant view into the remote galaxies with exploding stars. Born in 1926 on the island of Shikoku, he began his career as an art teacher at an elementary school. In 1957, FUKITA FUMIAKI exhibited with an art association, Nihonkonga Kiyake, and won an important award. FUKITA FUMIAKI exhibited at several of the international print biennials between the 1950s and the 1960s. In 1967, he won a prize at the Print Biennial in São Paulo. Later, in 1968, the artist was appointed as a professor of printmaking at the renowned Tamar College of Fine Art. One of his students was Seiko Kawashi. Currently, his works have been in the collection of the British Museum in London, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the National Museum of Art in Tokyo, San Francisco Museum of Art, Seattle Art Museum, and the Art Institute of Chicago. FUKITA FUMIAKI mainly uses the medium of woodblock printmaking, but adds some new features of his own. For instance, he uses a combination of oil-based and water-soluble color pigments, which is rarely used by other artists, not even by some of the latest contemporary Chinese printmakers. FUKITA FUMIAKI has developed his very own style and subjects. Some of his images, as we mentioned before, looks like fireworks, others like a view by telescope into the remote galaxies. So here is a contrast between one of his other works and the work we choose to exhibit. And this one is called Stars Before Dawn. We can observe that some elements in common in FUKITA FUMIAKI's work includes the use of color blue, the strategic manipulation of space, and the application of abstract elements include colorful dots and straight cut lines. And that's all I have for my virtual gallery talk to this work. Thanks for listening.